Our final speaker today is someone who doesn't just talk about business, he's lived it for over 40 years. In fact, he's becoming known as the godfather of small business. Andrew Griffiths is Australia's #1 small business author, with 14 best-selling books sold in more than 65 countries. He's coached thousands of entrepreneurs, worked with global leaders, and spoken on stages in 25 countries. Andrew Griffiths is known for telling it like it is, with passion, humour, and a healthy dose of entrepreneurial wisdom. His latest book and today's closing keynote, he asks a provocative but powerful question: someone has to be the most expensive, why not make it you? Now, he's been sitting, just broken it, he's been sitting amongst the people with pink hair. He's managed to get out of it without pink hair. Please welcome to the stage, Andrew Griffiths.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. I've got to say, if you give me a standing ovation, it can only go downhill from here, all right? It's the only other place where you get a standing ovation just for turning up is America. So thank you very much. Folks, I'm really pleased to be here, really proud to have the opportunity to give the closing keynote. Before we do that, though, I think a giant round of applause for Jen for making today happen. Good on you, Jen. Putting together something like this, anyone here put together one-day little event for a few hundred people? Okay, you want to kill yourself 3 days after you've decided to do it, you know, and then it's a slow decline into depression, all right? So it's a very, very big deal. Now, you've had the fortune of being there all day, and good on you for still being here. And I'd just like to say, if anyone, you know, normally around this time, people go, oh, I've got to leave now, I've got to do stuff. If you want to do that, I'd prefer it if you stormed out, okay? I don't want any of these, you know, I've got to go thing. I want you to slam the table, walk out, turn the table upright. I'm never coming back to this joint again, okay? Like, thank you, as kindly demonstrated by Katrina and Tracy Sheen there. But it's been a big day. You've learned a whole pile of stuff. I've been here since about midday. My head is spinning, my toes are curling. It's an extraordinary amount of information to take on. The day has been all about attracting customers, right? Pretty much, would you agree? If you boil it down, it's about attracting customers. I want to change the pace a little bit. I want to talk about making money. Has anyone here attracted customers that haven't bought stuff? Has anyone here attracted customers that are cheap and don't want to buy stuff? Is anyone kind of hearing the words out there, no one is buying anything at the moment, all that kind of stuff? Ring a bell? Okay, 99% of it is BS from my experience. So I'm going to talk about the fact that someone has to be the most expensive, why not make it you? Now, the problem with that is that the title has taken pretty much all of the mystery out of my keynote, and I've really got no idea what I'm going to talk about for the next 59 minutes, but we'll work on it. You don't have to do a whole lot of work for the next 59 minutes. You've done the heavy lifting. What I really love you to do is just to settle back, get comfortable, be challenged where you need to be challenged, but just let what I have to say sink in, okay? Because when it comes to being the most expensive, it's going to be like, oh, it's all sounds too simple, sounds too easy. I'm basing everything I've spoken about on working with, identifying, studying, researching those companies around the world that are the most expensive, figure out what they do, how they do it, and say, well, how do we do that in our small business? Some of what I'm going to tell you, you're going to arc up and feel a bit of a reaction or tension about it. Great. That's always a sign that it's kind of getting through. So just trust me for the next few minutes is my bit of advice. There's no reason for you to trust me, but I'll work on that. So it's become pretty darn complicated to do business these days. I used to think it was complicated 40 years ago. I get up nowadays and honestly, I feel like most mornings I know less about business today than I did 40 years ago, which may instill a lot of confidence in most of you at this stage. But I do. Things change so rapidly. There's so much kind of going on. It has got complicated without a doubt. When I first started speaking, I'd look out at that room like this, and this is what you guys all look like. It was like filled with joy and hope, little baby lambs. I look out here now, and this is what I see. Pretty much The Walking Dead as I look around the room. This is the new face of modern small business owners. So I tried to find a video that really captures what it means to be a small business owner today. Hunted high and low, and this is the best one that I think sums it up. You're the lizard. Yeah. Oh. Round of applause for the lizard. You guys are big clappers. I love it. Okay, who here feels like a lizard on most days? Okay, for many of us, it's just a Tuesday, right? It's like, yeah, that's normal. There's so much going on. Business is complicated. There's a lot to navigate. We've got all these kind of challenges, crisis, all these new social media things that we've got to do now, not do, all of that type of stuff, let alone try and come to terms with the fact that competition is ballooning in every sense of the word. And somewhere in amongst that, we've got to kind of figure out how do we do business. So we need a strategy that does a lot of the heavy lifting, a strategy that's going to help us overcome these challenges, a strategy that's going to help us seems to help us deal, I think, with the never-ending stream of this week's crisis, this week's challenge. Is anyone feeling inspired yet, by the way? No, good, just kind of checking. To me, that strategy is simply to start charging what you're truly worth. Sounds so simple, doesn't it? Such an easy thing. Just charge what you're worth, because so much will get fixed in your business and your business will become so much more if you do that, all right? Ideally, we want to be brave enough to be the business that's the most expensive. And for many of us, the thought of being the most expensive is actually pretty scary. It's something that makes us go, makes our little, again, something clench up pretty tightly. So it sounds simple, just charge more, just do all the rest of it, okay? I understand that. So realistically, what stops us? Why aren't more businesses doing that? And I guess the simple thing is that a couple of things about that. What we charge says a great deal about our business, both good and bad. A business that's the most expensive, it's got an implied sense of it must be good at what it does. A business that's cheap becomes a transaction. Sometimes we use our pricing as a strategy to get business. Simple as that. If we're cheap, that's our strategy. That's not a strategy. That's just being lazy. We haven't, or lack of creativity. We haven't got anything better to do except try and win on price. And you've all heard that stuff, the race to the bottom and pricing's a bad strategy, all that kind of stuff. I understand it. So one of the biggest realizations I've had in the years of doing what I do is that financial resilience, it fixes so many things in business. It fixes so many problems. We saw during COVID, how many businesses disappeared overnight simply because in the first week of COVID, before we knew it was a 2-year deal, right? No financial resilience. Virgin went into receivership within a week. Like, really? Is that how bad a condition we are? Australia, we have a major issue with financial resilience in small business. And the biggest reason is undercharging. Businesses just don't charge enough for what it is that they do. Now we're also in the middle of a cash crisis, money crisis. We're saying, well, how can we charge more? We'll kind of get to that. Charging what you're truly worth is a key part of this becoming financially resilient. And I see it time and time again, all of the things that change when you are a business that actually charges what they're worth. So who here actually feels that they charge what they're truly worth? Can you put your hand up for me? 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 people. 5. Great. Okay. Who here would like to charge what they're truly worth? How many? An obvious question, right? Even those of you who are asleep, just put your arms up if you can. Well, I'd appreciate the movement. Now, you know what's really interesting? I've asked that question hundreds of times in front of hundreds of audiences over the last 3 or 4 years. And the response is exactly the same proportionally. The same 3 or 4, 5 people put up their hand to say they're charging them what they're worth. The rest of the room want to charge what they're worth, but they're not. Doesn't matter what the industry is, doesn't matter what country it's in, doesn't matter where you are. That's a very interesting kind of observation. So what's stopping you from charging what you're worth? All those people who put up their hand to say they would like to. Well, for all of us, I think it's something simple. It's the villains. And the villains take 3 very distinct shapes. Well, they're all stories, but there's 3 types of stories. The first of the villains is probably the worst. And this is the stories that we picked up when we were growing up. Our relationship with money. Really interesting. I was in South Australia working on a Mentoring for Growth program for school kids. And one of the ladies was a money mindset coach. So all the kids in the room were between about 8 and 13 or 14, 250 kids. This lady put up a slide which was just a photograph of money. And she said to the kids, "What does that mean to you guys?" And they just started yelling out words. The words were fighting, anger, mum and dad bluing, not enough. It wasn't Lego, it wasn't McDonald's, it wasn't positive, it was all negative. Then they started to get into a new bike, etc. First thoughts were money, bad. And I said to her afterwards, I said, "Wow, is that because we're in a regional area, we're in Port Lincoln, South Australia? It doesn't matter if I do it in the CBD of Sydney, if I do it in Kalgoorlie, if I do it in Hobart, it's the same response." We pick up our money mindset when we're growing up. I grew up as an orphan. I didn't have parents. I had a childhood full of violence and living in and out of state institutions, all that kind of stuff. So I grew up with a very low self-worth, and I got told that I didn't have any value. That just nicely translated into having a poverty mindset around money. I say I spent the first 17 years of my life being told I was worthless, and the rest of my life trying to prove differently. But our relationship with money is formed very, very early. So the stories that we picked up along the way will influence you with what you charge in your business today. I coach people on this all the time. It's the first place we go is, what was your relationship with money as a kid? And it was generally bad. Oops, a daisy. I'll try going the right direction. It's complicated. They're 2 buttons. The second story, or the second villainous stories that we pick up, are the ones that we were taught by others. So yes, we got our family ones, but maybe those people that we worked with when we were around. So when I bought my first business, I was about 17, and I bought my business off a guy who had a poverty mentality. Awesome guy, lovely guy, but his entire belief was everything had to be cheap. You had to sell stuff cheap. It was a dive shop. And it was like cheap, $295 for a dive course. If you sold anything more expensive, people won't buy it. It's got to be cheap. Everything was cheap. So my poverty mentality, added with his poverty mentality, we were freaking winning. We had the best poverty mentality in the diving industry, bar none. Okay. Then the third lot of stories that are villains to me are the absolute stories that we hear out there. No one will pay that. Everyone is doing this. You know, the stories that are more often than not are absolute and complete and utter bullshit. But we believe it because everyone is doing that. One of the big rules I think about becoming the most expensive is you don't listen to probably any of those villains, but you certainly don't listen to what they are saying. So 3 villains there that affect all of us in one shape or another. Any of those ring a bell, folks? Resonate, and they can resonate deeply, right? So I had all 3 in my first business, and I charged accordingly with disastrous effect. And that was when I first encountered this concept of going, well, eventually something had to give. And that's when I realized I had to learn how to charge what I was worth. And in fact, I had to learn how to be the most expensive. But I'll tell you more about that in a second. So what do we need to do that enables us to start charging what we're truly worth? I guess that's probably a good question. And start enjoying the rewards that come from a business that can not only navigate challenges, but you're not living from hand to mouth. You're not wondering if your credit card's going to work when you're at the checkout. You're attracting staff because they want to work for you because you've got a reputation for being the best. You're attracting those customers who want to work with the best and they're prepared to pay for it. Most of the time, we get the customers we deserve, not the customers we want. All right? They're two very different kinds of customers. And that comes back to our relationship with pricing. So today, what I want to show you is 7 big philosophies to get you started down this path of being the most expensive. None of them going to cost you any money. None of them are rocket science, but all of them are effective and all of them are extraordinarily powerful. Very quickly, who am I? Thanks for the introduction. Who am I to be talking about this kind of stuff? I'm an entrepreneurial futurist. What I do all day is I help people stay relevant in their organisation, whether it's an individual, a business, an industry. Industries come to me and say, what have we got to still do to be around in a few years? At the moment, I'm working with a couple of industries on a 100-year strategy. You know, like that's a definition of optimism. Have you guys all got your 100-year plans on you? Oh, that's unfortunate. Room full of pessimists, I see. Hey? So that's my kind of thing. Yes, I had my first business at 17. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. I briefly worked a few years, 5 years I worked for a Japanese shipping company till I realised I was unemployable and I finally stopped and kind of, worked for myself. Yes, I wrote a book 25 years ago called 101 Ways to Market Your Business, and that's when I got into doing this traditional side of things there. Yes, someone has to be the most expensive. It's my 14th book, and it was one that again has been so relevant for me. My book's been used in countries all around the world. This is my credibility piece. My new book is coming out in 2026, The Bigger Button. And it's very exciting for me. Personal development book about for those people who want to be bigger, who yearn to be bigger. I'm a professional speaker, lots of media, blah, 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 blah. You get all that stuff. Clearly, I have all of the answers, right? We understand that. That's all of that is really just so you guys go, man, this guy really has all of the answers. Now, my first bit of advice is never listen to anyone who says they have all of the answers. That to me is the most terrifying line on the face of the planet when we do. But I have a very unique perspective. And that unique perspective is that I do work with a lot of businesses from a lot of different industries in different parts of the world. And I've done this for many years. I get to see what is happening in the world of business. And one of the challenges for most of us when we're in our space is we're in our space. And we're looking for advice from other people in our space. It's probably not where you're going to get the best thinking. It's probably not where you're going to get the best ideas. I spend hour after hour looking for examples of what people are doing in business that's innovative. I've got a database of like 3,000 pivots from during COVID, which talks about rapid change. It's that kind of stuff. So that unique perspective is what I can share and what I love to share more than anything else in hopefully ways that people can absorb that as well. So over the last few decades, what I've seen that prompted me to write this book was so many businesses that struggle because of that one simple thing, that they undercharge. I came across so many businesses, I'm serious, that even if they were fully booked, they would not be making a profit. And we go, no, it's not rocket science, it's just kind of sums. Costs, income, profit or no, right? And it just, I'm still amazed. There's all these conversations about scaling to 7 figures. So what the hell does that even mean? It is the most ridiculous statement on the face of the planet. If you're not making a profit, it means nothing. Do you know how many companies go broke that are earning 8 figures, 9 figures, 10 figures, 11 figures, 15 figures? You know, like big numbers mean nothing. It's about profitability. That's the only thing that matters. You heard the line, you never go broke making a profit. But so much of the conversation is about the wrong thing. Scale to this. No. Make this amount of profit is what you should be doing. Okay, we're having the wrong conversations. But people have the wrong reasons, or all kinds of reasons rather, for undercharging. Again, internal story, customers won't pay, my customers won't pay if I put my rates up. You know, go, okay, find new customers. You've just got the wrong customers. And that's often the case. If your customers don't value you enough for what it is that you do, that you couldn't put your prices up, then you've got the wrong customers. Or you're that cheap that you're purely a transaction. And when you're a transaction, people shop around for transactions. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we kind of go through. So breaks my heart to see that businesses that are great at what they do, but they don't charge for it. So that's become my passion, is to help business owners to see the value in themselves and to embrace what makes them unique and encourage them to charge accordingly. And you know, whenever I work with people, there's always pushback and all the rest of it, but I walk in straight away because I'm not emotionally attached to it and go, put your rates up by 30%, 40%, 50%. Oh, couldn't do that, couldn't. We can. We just got to do it the right way. And I'll share some information around that as well as we're going. Okay. So someone has to be the most expensive. Why not make it you? As a minimum, I want you to start charging what you're worth. 95% of you said you don't, so we know that we've got room to go. So if you want to be the most expensive, these philosophies that I'm going to share with you will help you do that. And that's what they are. I don't like to call them strategy so much. Each of them are interrelated and they kind of fit nicely together. And there is quite a bit of overlap as well. They won't cost you a lot of money, take a lot of, you know, brainwaves or anything like that, or new skills, but they will require you probably getting a bit uncomfortable in a few ways. So anyway, first one, number one, we've got to have the courage to zig when everyone else is zagging. You've probably heard that before. But for me, extraordinary things happen in the zig, when we're brave enough to go against the tide. And we're currently, though, in a world where people are really, the school of fish going in one direction is getting bigger and bigger, and the people that are going the other direction are getting smaller and smaller. And ironically, that's where the real opportunity lay. So I looked around for an example, and I'm hoping no one else has played this video before. Thank you, Katrina. We share videos on this. So think about promoting coffee. We all know what it's like right about now. Everyone probably needs a triple espresso. And we go, well, you know, someone's going to promote their coffee. They're going to do this great ad. There's going to be a couple of beautiful people. There's going to be steaming coffee. It's going to be all perfect, right? We all kind of get that. Maybe we could try something different. Now, you know, that's going against the grain. I don't know what it is about that. I could just watch that video all day long. It is literally, and on slow motion, it's even kind of better. There's something just bizarre about it. But they're brave enough. You know, that's having the courage to make fun of yourself. That's having the courage to not do the beautiful people drinking coffee kind of scenario that really we're all over. Having the courage to zig when everyone else is zagging is what it's about. So there's always this pressure for us to conform and to do what we're doing so it's the same. And we're living in a world, ironically, that doesn't really reward that. And it's kind of going more and more towards that. There are lots of shoulds. You should do this. This is the way that you should market yourself. Jalinda, you're an anti-shouldist, you know, but understanding that there is great opportunity if you're brave enough to go in a slightly different direction. So we need to be curious if we're going to do that, because it's not really just about I'm not saying you should zig on just on pricing. I'm talking about your offer, your marketing, your messaging, everything that you do. You want to be brave enough, courageous enough to go against the pack. That's what makes you stand out. My first business zig was the biggest one of all for me. So I mentioned that I bought a dive shop when I was a kid with a poverty mentality, off a guy with a poverty mentality in an industry that's got a poverty mentality. So when back then, 41 years ago, a dive course was $295. I live in Hobart. A little while ago, drove past the local dive shop. There was a sign on the window saying dive courses, $295. So how affluent do you think that industry is? 41 years later, charging the same amount. And I was undercharging 41 years ago. So I bought a dive shop. Everything was identical because that's how a dive shop had to be. And what I mean by that was every dive shop had to look the same. Your dive instructors had to look the same. You had to have fishnet on the wall. You had to have plastic starfish in the fishnet. You had to sell scuba cylinders. I used to make $2.50 per scuba cylinder, $2.50. And yet they would take half of the dive shop. Like you've got to sell like 1,000 of them a day. I sold 3 a month. So, you know, it's like there was everything about it was ridiculous. But my people that I looked up into industry said, you should. This is how you have to. Everything failed. So ultimately, I ran my business into the ground and went more and more broke. I got to know my bank manager because he popped in every day and gave me the checks that I'd bounced the day before. You know, it was just a complete and utter disaster until I got desperate enough and realised that this model doesn't work. And these words came, I got a business coach and he said, someone's got to be the most expensive, it may as well be you. But if you're going to be the most expensive, you've got to be the best. You've got to do what others don't do. You've got to change. So I did a complete renovation of this dive shop. I went and borrowed a whole pile of carpet, painting stuff. I had no money. I was 300 grand in debt and I was like 18 and a half. And completely changed the dive shop from a dive shop into an art gallery that sold underwater stuff and taught diving. So on the side, I got my dive instructors out of T-shirts. We had a ceremonial cutting of the ponytails. You know, no more ponytails, earrings out. We got all these cheap suits from Vinnie's, which none of them fitted, of course, and none of them looked the slightly bit inspiring. But we made it, and we tripled our dive prices to $795 for a dive course. We only sold expensive gear. You buy an art piece and you got a free dive course. We completely did everything that was wrong. And most importantly and significantly, we had no fishnet and no plastic seahorses, starfish, nothing. You know, you can't succeed. Anyway, shut the dive shop to do all of that, open it up, and it boomed from the day we opened. People drove from all over Sydney to come to this dive shop. I attracted all of these people. Now, a lot of my existing customers said, all of a sudden, you're too expensive, we're going to go somewhere else. They weren't really my customers. But all these people travelled from one side of Sydney to come because they heard about this dive shop that was the most expensive, but it was the best. That was the scariest thing I ever did, but that's when I learnt the importance of zigging when everyone else is zagging, okay? Very important. Extraordinary things happen in the zig for those who are brave enough to leave the fake comfort of swimming with the herd. Does that make sense, guys? Great. Okay, number 2, you've got to embrace your unique. Now, looking around this room, I think there's a big sense of unique, and I love that. And I think that, again, sometimes that's really almost beaten out of people. It's almost like you play small, bless you. You know, keep small. Don't be bigger by embracing what makes you unique. I just completely disagree with that. No one on the planet has the same experience, trials, tribulations, realizations, battles, victories, or bazinga moments as you. Use what makes you unique. I want to just give you that permission, not that it's mine to give, but just embrace who the hell you are. Because the world wants more of that. The world wants to know what makes you different, not what makes you the same. All right, this is the key point. Those people who are the most expensive do all of this stuff. They embrace their uniqueness. Business is rapidly moving towards homogenization. And Tracy, as much as I hate to say it, AI is aiding that for people that use it in a lazy way. We're already seeing how many times do you see something is automatically created by ChatGPT, you don't even bother looking any further because the little icons are in there, the M dashes are in there. You know, you go to most legal websites, go to a lawyer's website, you're going to see the same copy. Any financial planning website, first 2 or 3 paragraphs, the words trusted, long-term, future there, and there's going to be a picture of an old couple with a little kid on a swing on a beach or in a park. All right. And most of the time, the industry's why it's all homogenizing is people saying, oh, build me a website. I'm a financial planner, build me a website like my competitors' sites. Okay. We're becoming a transaction. Soon as you become a transaction, the only thing you can win on is price. By being the cheapest, you've already kind of lost. We look the same. We sell the same stuff. Right? We use the same language. Right? That's what we've got to break out of. And I think even another part about this is we often underestimate our customers. You go to a website now, an accounting website that tells me that they do tax. Did anyone here in the room know that accountants do tax? I saw a website the other day and the opening line was that we specialise in law. And it was lawyers. Now, again, I didn't really get that lawyers do law. It was a riveting moment, a revelation for me. Our customers are a whole lot smarter. Some days it doesn't feel like it, right? But generally, we've got to treat our customers with more respect. We don't underestimate them because they are aware. We make it hard for people to differentiate ourselves. And that's what the key is. Embracing our unique is what helps us to stand apart. It gives us more value when we embrace our unique, when we're able to explain our unique, when we're able to share our unique. That's what we're trying to get past. So anyway, transactions, we get that point. So a couple of examples there. My advice, know what makes your business unique is the key. And a clue, without a doubt, is you. You are what makes your business unique. The service that you offer is probably the same as 1,000 other businesses, right? Anyone, whatever it is you're doing, I get that. So don't try and do the services different. We offer better customer service. No one believes that, right? You make the difference. Tell us you. Tell us about you. Tell us why you're unique. Do that kind of stuff. Let your unique shine through your business in everything you do. And that is where people will find you. And that's where you will be able to charge what you're worth. That's a key that I see all of the time. Got to get really good at telling the world about what your unique is. And one thing that I've really spent a lot of time on is looking for the unique in other businesses. When I'm on my little hunt for those businesses that charge what it is that they're really worth. And I see it everywhere. I see amazing things. I saw the business in New York. They've just released a Netflix movie about this. They don't have chefs, they have nonnas. Like, how awesome is that? This restaurant is booked out for like a year. You can't get in there. And they just have nonnas. Like, nonnas make the best food in the world. You want a 3-star Michelin chef or you want a nonna? I want a nonna, right? Absolutely. And you go, wow, what a clever idea. Who'd be brave enough to do this? It's Peter Lick, photographer. Amazing, amazing photographer. Right at the time when digital images were starting to photography was getting devalued because everyone had a phone, everyone could take photos. It's the end of the digital it's the end of the photographic industry. They were all saying, Pete, he sold one image to a guy in America for $6.4 million. He sold 3 images for a total of $10.5 million. When everyone else is going, no one's buying photographic images. Why? Because he's a lunatic. It's probably the easiest way. He's a great friend of mine. It's the easiest way to describe. He's got 300 staff. He's completely obsessed. He's the most hardworking man I've ever met in my entire life. But he's extraordinary, and he knows his customers. He did things when everyone was dropping all their prices. He just added 2 more zeros. He has a subscription image thing where 100 people are members, and they get a print once a month. He charges $25,000 a month per person for that subscription, and there's a wait list of 300 odd people to go on it. And it's all like rock stars, politicians, people that have money. Social media, advisors. So it's the wealthy elite that are out there, those kind of people. You look at that and go, wow, how extraordinary. Zigging while everyone's zagging, embracing is unique. I came across this wonderful example in Pakistan. There's these guys that make milk, the most expensive milk in Pakistan. The way they figured out how to make it was that they realized that there are lazy cows and fit cows. Fit cows in their little lemon lulu kind of stuff that jog around the paddock. And then the lazy ones that sit under trees. So they put Fitbits on all their cows and worked out who the lazy ones are, who the fit ones are, and they put fit ones in with the lazy ones to get them off their lazy asses so that they exercise more. The output of the milk was better, it was creamier, etc. Nestle pays a premium for all of their milk because they did something different. Imagine the pitch. This is in Nestle's boardroom. These are our fit cows. This is what we did. It takes courage to do that. Everyone else is just going in with a price per litre of milk. Everyone else selling milk is doing a transaction. They're telling the story about why their milk is better. Get the drift, guys? Very cool, right? Even using our unique to stay relevant. Now, just this one is a great example for me. Not so much about pricing, but I want to paint the picture. You've arrived in Rome, it's Friday night, right? You probably have a big night celebrating, etc. You get up on Saturday morning, first thing you go is, I think I need an exorcism. Standard Saturday, you've all been there, right? I know Jen's been there. Like, you know, it was a rough night, I need an exorcism. So what you do is you open up your Priest on a Scooter app, and it says, oh, there's 7 priests in your area at the moment. Bang, okay, great, yeah, bang. Father John's going to be there in 7 minutes. Now, you've already put your credit card details in there. Father John turns up, does the exorcism, leaves, and a little thing comes up saying, how many angel wings ratings are you going to give Father John? Does that app look familiar? Now, this is the Roman Catholic Church, a relatively old and staid organisation that are able to embrace technology. This is an app. This is a real app, not a fake thing. This is an app available if you happen to live in Rome. So anyway, we can use our unique to stay relevant. No one on the planet has the same experience, trials, tribulations, realizations, battles, victories, or bazinga moments as you. Use what makes you unique, guys. Dig deep, find that stuff, embrace that unique. I think there's enormous value in there. Okay, number 3 philosophy is around value. Identify the value that you offer. Now, the more value we bring, the more valuable we become. The problem is we're a little bit obsessed with the concept of value being about value for money. I buy this $99 course, is that value, right? We become a transaction again. And you'll notice that I'm very anti-transactions today. I had a bit of red meat, feeling a bit aggro about it. Okay, so what does this look like? How do you know how your customers value you? Well, or do you know, probably is more the question I'm asking there. Because we automatically assume it's the financial value, but it's really not. I often think how we're valued is not how we actually think we're valued. And I look at these as ideas for how others actually value us. So if you look at this kind of list of 10 ideas, one can be like, we're trusted. Do people trust you? Not as, you know, are you going to put your hand in their pocket and steal their American Express? Some of you probably, right? But most of you know it's not that kind of transparent trust, but you do what you're going to say you're going to do. You're reliable. You do all those things. That's how people value you. I could probably find someone cheaper. I could probably find someone who does something different, but I trust you. We've all got clients like that, right? That really trust us because of it and they value that. It could be they might value you because of your experience. You've done something for a long period of time that makes you valuable because of that wealth of experience that you've had. It might be your expertise. You might have done something that's unique. Most of my business these days is teaching people how to write books because I've written a lot of books. I've taught a lot of people to write books. It's specialist knowledge. So I promote that fact a lot, all right? So that expertise is unique. The energy that you have, like what do you bring to every interaction, every engagement? Now, this is one that most people don't think about, but this is a really big one. I get told and was told that many times, we like the energy you bring to the project. Now, they might say, look, you really don't bring any other value, but you bring a nice amount of energy, which helps to energize what's going on. Do you bring value that is enough to say to people, say, we want you, we want to work with you because we like the energy that you bring. That has value for us. Number 5, this is a huge one today, is your consistency. You know, are you consistency? Are you consistency? Oh, God. It's getting late in the day, right? You know, are you consistent? And I'm bugging up my leg. So every once in a while, I'll do this. I just like to say, I'm not that drunk. I've just got a sore leg. But consistency is hugely valuable. It's hugely valued by people because, to be brutally honest, it's a bit of a rarity. People are all over the flaming shop, right? There's a lack of consistency. Number 6 is creativity, is hugely valuable again. If you can come with ideas, be proactive. I'm constantly waiting for suppliers, people I work with, come to me with proactive ideas, creative ideas. I don't want to be the one who has to go to my creative guys with ideas. You know, be on the forefront. Your reputation, what do other people say about you? Have you got 150, 200 testimonials? Google, that's why Google reviews now have become so important. What are your values? This is so important. Do you show what your values are, what you stand for on your website? I engaged a website designer a few years back to do some work for us simply because I met him online and he told me he used to be a youth pastor. And I went, oh, well, he's a religious guy. Religious people have never done anything bad. I think I'll get him to do my website. And he was a lovely guy. But like values, sit on a not-for-profit board with other people that are influential and you'll get more work than you've ever had. Right? There's value alignment people value. Okay? So if they don't know what your values are, what you stand for, what charities you support, what you believe in, if they can't find any of that stuff there, and then the next person that they're looking at supports wombats, God bless them, and they love to care for wildlife, there is a bigger chance they're actually going to do business with them. So don't keep that stuff a secret. Who are your partners? Who are the other logos that you've got on your website? Who are your brands that you're associated with? And even the last one there, just are you fun to deal with? And we go kind of like, you know, like really? Well, there's a Chinese saying, man without a smiling face should never open a shop. And it always leads me to the question, then why do so many miserable bastards do it? Right? Again, it's like the energy piece. People like to do business that they find fun to do business with. This is how we're valued. I haven't mentioned anything there about price, about product, about any of that kind of stuff. Understand that how people value you is very, very different to how we think they value us. And we're focusing sometimes on the wrong things, okay? Do you know how your customers value you? If you don't, you kind of got to start to figure that out. And often they'll tell you that, but we've got to be listening for that. We've got to ask better questions. We've got to look at our clients, look online, find out what your clients' values are. What are they supporting? What do they do? You know, all of these kind of things help to get us to that point where we become more valuable. Okay, so how do we become more valuable? By engaging deeply with our customers. It's the obvious thing, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we're going. But I'm also going to say it's by doing the small things better than anyone else. We think that we lose clients on big stuff. From my experience, we lose clients on little things. When we don't get the little things right, when we don't read emails properly time again, when we don't return calls time and time again, when we don't do what we say we're going to do, when all the little things are lost, our key is to make sure that we do the little things really, really well. Do the little things better than anyone else. You know what it's like when you're staying in a hotel or when you go to an event. You know, it's the little things that make the difference. We heard about retreats before. It doesn't matter. Any business that does stuff that's just that little bit more attention to detail, it changes everything. I share a story about staying in a motel in Rockhampton years ago. Is anyone here from Rockhampton before I dish it? So I like to make sure that I'm not going to alienate. I'll alienate all of you. Just give me time, all right? But I remember staying in this motel, middle of nowhere, long drive, got up in the middle of the night, in the morning, paid. It was a lovely motel, but it was no different to insert generic motel here. But I got up and I went out to my car. The windscreen had been cleaned, and there's a little note under the windscreen saying, hey, we've taken the liberty of cleaning your windscreen so the road ahead is safe and clear for you. Thanks for staying at Rockhampton Motor Inn. Such a little touch, right? But I had to drive for 8 hours to get there, and I got 8 hours to get the hell out of there. But it was such a personal thing. It was such a nice little moment. I checked out of reception, and they give you a couple of bottles of water for the road and a little bag of apples. And you go, these are things that collectively cost them probably $5 on a $300 stay or something. Little things that most people don't do because the little things are hard. We miss them. Okay. The more value we bring, the more valuable we become. And it is not the type of value that we think. Okay. Number 4, understand customer proximity. And this is a biggie. This is about our closeness to our customers. question there, would your customers fight to save your business? I want you to think about that one for a second, because it's probably the biggest question you could ask. Would your customers fight to save your business if you needed them to? Now, there's a business in Adelaide called Spring Gully. And a few years back, they put out a little media release saying, after 60 years of selling condiments to the South Australian people, we're closing down. We're a family, we immigrated here 100 years ago, we started this business, but we can't compete. Coles and Woolies won't buy our products, so we're worried that we can't keep up and we're not going to have enough money to pay our staff. So we've taken the steps, we're actually going to close down the business. It's a really big thing. No big fuss, no big announcement, just, we're sorry for letting our customers down, is what they actually said. Anyway, this media release went out. It got picked up by the local radio, TV. Next thing, there are protests in the streets of Adelaide saying, "Save Spring Gully." There are signs, it's on all the radios, on all the TV stations. Spring Gully's got to be saved. So, of course, the people out there started to fight around it. What happens? Straight away, Coles and Woolies turn around and both put in big orders for $1 million and save Spring Gully. Now, if their customers didn't fight for them, they wouldn't have survived, and still going strong today, of course, as a result of that. It's a big question. Would your customers fight to save your business? So, doesn't get any mightier than that in my point of view. So what is customer proximity? It's really simple. It's the gap between us and our customers. And that's why I'm concerned today, because I think we're doing more things to put a gap between us than take the gap away, unless we're doing stuff wisely. So when we have, a gap, this kind of measures the strength of the relationship. How tight is our relationship? So when there's a big gap, we have a lack of loyalty, they purchase for convenience, demanding customers, fickle, rough times ahead. There's no real loyalty. Again, you're a transaction. When it's a small gap, we have loyal customers, high level of engagement, team collaborators, they're respectful, they're long-term, okay? So what we're trying to do is to have this kind of future-proof business where our customers are tight, close. That's all it is. And we do that by being more human, by taking the time to connect, by talking to our customers more, engaging more, finding out what they need, finding out how they value us, having more meaningful conversations. We're all taught about, your tribe, your vibe, attract your tribe and build your community. But people underestimate that. My community is the most important, critical part in my business. It is everything from my insurance policy to my police department who tell me off if I'm doing stuff that's wrong, to my product development team, to everything, because they're tight. And because I treat them with respect, I don't treat them like a cow to be milked, right? It's a different thing on that side of it. So, we've got to make it personal. Business is personal. That's the whole point here. Don't do things that put distance between you and your customers. So anyway, would your customers fight to save your business? That's a hand-on-heart moment that we've got to ask. And if the answer is no, and most of us, I would hazard a guess and say it would be no, what have I got to do to build that relationship and make it far stronger than what it is? Okay, number 5, in a fast world, embrace slow. And please don't think I'm an anti-tech guy or anti-AI, I'm not, or anti-social media, none of that stuff in the slightest. I just think that, again, we're just a little bit out of whack. I think we've moved so far to digital and putting distance between people. It's about moving it back, moving the pendulum back a little bit so that we're doing things that, again, are building these significant relationships. Going slow means doing things well, in my opinion, rather than doing things fast. When we go slow, we create experiences. Experiences are hugely valued by people in a fast-moving world. Going slow is hard, though, right? Like doing the little things is hard. That's why so many people don't. And, and I love this fact about, setting our business on full remote and, you'll be driving a Lamborghini. It's BS. It's not a long-term business. It's not real. It's these fantasy worlds of what can be and what can't be. You want to build something of substance, something of significance. I work with my clients, people I work with for 20, 25, 30 years. I don't have to do a whole pile of stuff because I treat my people with such respect and they value me in the ways that matter to them, that my business keeps growing because of that, right? I don't have to do clever things. I can just do solid things, if that makes kind of any sense. Going slow means creating experiences, getting creative, being different. Sound familiar, right? How much would you pay for a walking stick? You know, there's a guy I know who creates walking sticks for 85,000 US dollars. Who buys them? Rich people. Who are his customers? People with too much money that want to buy a really nice walking stick for their elderly parents. You know, I think I look at that. You know, it's an experience to buy a walking stick for $85,000. I'm going to need one. You know, in an Italian outdoor store. I look at this. They understood this whole concept of the rise of the Patagonias and buying outdoor clothes. They put in a freezer in their shop in Rome. We're back to Rome again. So have an exorcism, then go and buy a nice little outdoor. So go into the minus 20 degrees Celsius cool room and try the sleeping bag. Go and have a nap. You know, you go creating experiences. A few years back, someone put an igloo on the Hudson River for rent on Airbnb for $500 a night. And it was booked out. You know, this is what the world wants. Sweden created this approach of saying you donate blood. When blood's used, you get this message saying, thanks for your blood, Andrew. Today you saved Helga, a 5-year-old girl with leukemia. You know, your donation saved her life. You know, here you get a biscuit and a cup of tea. You know, make it a bit more personal is what we're saying. Going slow means doing things well rather than, you see the intellect that I talked about. It's about being unique. It's about standing out. It's about, doing what others won't do. And it keeps coming back to that point. Okay, last couple. Use strategic storytelling really well. That really positions us and we can use it to show our value in such different ways. It's an interesting kind of point. Storytelling to me is a misunderstood kind of a concept, hugely powerful, an essential tool. And I think that we often think, oh, tell your story or tell this. It's a bit one-dimensional. I think there's more to it than that. I think storytelling is a much bigger tool and there's much more opportunities. I do think it's the greatest tool that we have for differentiating ourselves from others when we can use that. If we can use it in an effective way. Use it wisely is the key. So I came across a company in Japan, and I love Japan, many stories there. I haven't got time for all of them. But this was about a restaurant chain, and they'd reached this point in Japan where a big restaurant chain, they had 4,000 staff, and their customers were demanding food faster and cheaper, and they were trying to do it, meet the needs and all the rest of it. But they just reached a critical crossroad where they said, if we keep doing it cheaper and faster, we're basically going to become a fast food chain. Is that what we want to be? And this was a 200-year-old restaurant group. I mean, they owned their own farms. It was all organic. They had like 8th generation soybean growers. It's an amazing business. Anyway, the board of this company said, no, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to tell better stories. Oh my God, well, that's a great strategy. So they did. They started by educating their staff, got all 4,000 of their staff to all of their farms to meet the people that grow their food. They told them about the history and the soybean plants that they used had this incredible DNA pedigree. Just amazing stuff about what it takes to grow, what it takes to make, all the stuff. Then they started a campaign within the business where they started to educate their customers. And it was basically based around one dish, a tofu dish. And the bottom line that they got in their story was, we are an extraordinary business. We've built an incredible reputation over hundreds of years. Our tofu is the best tofu in the world. If you want to buy this particular dish, which is very popular in Japan, it's going to take a little bit longer and it's going to cost a little bit more because that's how we do what we do with a full story. Year one, they sold $30 million worth of extra tofu dishes. But more importantly, they completely changed their customers. All of a sudden, all their customer satisfaction stuff was, we're happy to wait, we're happy to pay more. No one was in a hurry anymore because they changed everything through better storytelling. Okay, that's the power of storytelling. We can use stories to build connection, change thinking, showcase value, lots of different things. This is just a fun video that for some reason, again, I just love as a storytelling kind of video. Now, it's a corny credit card thing, right? Does everyone like that? John Travolta fans. Of course, the big concern is that, there's probably people out there that don't know who that John Travolta is, but there's a story of Christmas. There's a story of John Travolta. Even the lady in the shop was in Saturday Night Fever, right? You know, you look at it and go, wow, we resonate so much. I think it's about being creative. There are stories that every business needs to share, you know, not just our origin story, you know, but yeah, that's number one. What is your business? Why did you start your business? You know, what's your personal origin story? How did you overcome adversity in some shape or form? What are your products or services story? Where has it come from? Your team, your customer story. How did you survive COVID? You know, one adversity kind of thing. What's your supplier story? Who do you buy stuff? Tell the story of those people. Shine the light on your ideal customers. What's the vision that you're planning for your industry? You know, there's so many more stories that we can share. And you're welcome to have a copy of this presentation. I'll mention that, and now everyone's written stuff down. Over time, our stories need to change. They need to adapt and evolve, and as our business adapts and evolves. And that's kind of what that's about. So tell more stories, tell better stories, tell bigger stories, tell more stories that matter. Okay, number 7, the last one. Be known for being bigger than what you sell. And that really comes back to that value point I made before. But being bigger, aspire to be more. Build a business of substance is what we're talking about. I think that now, today, people want to spend our money with organisations that actually stand for something, that means something. They want that alignment. Patagonia, great brand. What they've done is extraordinary. The most reputable brand in the USA. They've really gone out and said, okay, well, this is what we stand for. We're here trying to save the earth. Now, I buy from Patagonia purely for that reason, right? And their research will say that probably 80% of their people know they could buy stuff cheaper, they could probably get better quality, they could do all kinds of stuff, but it would be less ethical and less significant in terms of what it does. But it's no good if people don't know, right, what it is we do. So we want people who are passionate, they're committed, they're engaged to buy from us. Our job is simply to show them why they should. That point, what do we stand for? What's our value? So that bigger, aspire to be more, build a business of substance. And again, there's a whole pile of stuff that I could talk about, but I just don't really have time. So they're the 7 main strategies that I want to call philosophies. Have the courage to zig when everyone else zags. Embrace what makes you unique. Identify the value you offer. Understand customer proximity. Get them close. In a fast world, embrace slow. Use strategic storytelling. Use storytelling far better and be known for something, you know, bigger than what it is that you sell. Now, of course, you've got to have a bonus strategy, right? You've got to offer more value. So what I want to do here is say, number 8, you can't just put lipstick on a wombat, okay? You understand what that means, right? That's a wombat. That's a wombat with lipstick. Now, do you need me to repeat that? Is everyone good so far with that, right? Everyone kind of gets that. So it's kind of cute. What does it really mean? Someone has to be the most expensive. Why not make it you? But if you're going to be the most expensive, you have to be the best, right? That's the caveat that I put on that. There are people like, anyone here ever buy a Loon croissant? Why do people line up from 6:30 in the morning in the middle of winter for a half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is, to buy Loon croissants? There are no shortage of croissants in Melbourne, right? But people buy them. Why? Because they're the best. You know, that's what we all got to aspire to. I agree, they're amazing. Okay, being the best tends to require a degree of obsession. Okay, simple as that. My advice to all of you, in whatever it is that you do, is to aspire to be the best. If you know, it's like fast food or it's like a restaurant. Don't be fabulous one day and terrible the next day. If you can't, you know, be terrible all the time. It's actually better. You know, at least people are never disappointed. They know where they stand. So that's why the likes of McDonald's, they know what they are, right? But, you know, become obsessed. And I see the people behind every one of those businesses that I would talk about that are the most expensive, there's someone who's obsessed, who's driving it. Peter Lick, the most obsessed man, the walking stick guy, the cow growing guys, these glasses, Chrome Hearts, the guys that make whatever it might be. If you really want to be the most expensive, you kind of got to be a bit obsessed about what it is that you do. So my challenge to you today, folks, to wrap this up, to be the most expensive takes courage. And that's why so few businesses actually do it. It's easier to stay playing small. It's easier to just try and win business on price. How many of you kind of win every time you put in a quote for work. So you submit a quote and you win 9 out of 10. I'm so sorry for you guys. I'm sorry to hear that. You know, that tells me you're too cheap straight away. You should be aiming for 5 out of 10. So we've got to get comfortable with not winning. Because if you're winning every single time, you're undercharging. I absolutely guarantee it. Okay? So adopt the philosophies that I've shared with you, that I can barely say the word, in all that you do and all that you start. And you just can't help but notice the changes. I'm trying to give you the freedom to do what it is as well. I hope you see that in what I'm talking about. There's a freedom in being unique. There's a freedom in digging, going against the tide. There's a freedom in letting go of those old stories that no longer serve us, right? My challenge to you is to have the courage to banish the villains, whatever they are, and start charging what you're truly worth. Okay, simple as that. Maybe then we go back from this to that. And I look out here and I get to see these little happy smiling faces again and stop living every day like you're this flaming lizard. Righto, boom, boom. Okay, thank you very much, guys. And one last little thing I just want to add just before I kind of wrap up. There is a right way and a wrong way to put up your prices. I don't have time to talk about that today, but if you want to, you can click on that. There's a video. There's no sign-up form. You don't even have to leave an email address. I've gone rogue. You just go there, watch the video. It's a webinar I did that will show you how to put your prices up the right way, because this is what stops most people from starting to charge what they're worth. And I guarantee that if you follow what I say there, you will get 10 times the value out of what you paid for this to come along today easily. Okay. Thank you, guys.